Hey, SMSU Art 270ers. This is Summer Session Online Art. We are at Lakeview Nation and we are here at Laker Nation in the Laker Art Room. And today we are going to learn how to make a texture rubbing into a name. Now, there are two types of texture. The key word here, texture. Texture is an art element and it is represented by usually things that we can actually touch and are called physical textures. Now, there are two types of textures. There's what we call actual texture, which you can touch and feel and palpate. And then there's the implied texture, which is what this whole drawing is right here. It's implied texture. So what we're going to do today, this is a foundational element of art, and it is number 5. It is an art element which the state of Minnesota says that we have to talk about. Now, perfect example of texture is this surface right here. This is really good. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take a 9x12 sheet of paper. I'm going to fold it in half. When I did that, I am going to take a scissors and I am going to cut this in half. Once I cut it in half, I end up with a sheet of paper about this big, 2 of them. I am now going to fold this sheet of paper in half, and I'm just going to leave it folded for right now. But this is going to be the size that I'm going to do the rubbings of. And so if you look, it's about the size of my hand. All right, so here we go. To demonstrate how we do a rubbing. So for example, I have this really cool texture here. I also have this really cool nameplate. I'm going to take my oil pastels, but you could use a crayon. You could use any hard wax material that you can rub with. So I'm going to set this right up here, and I'm going to put it so it's right there. And now I'm going to take purple, and I'm just going to lightly go over it, and you can see the letters starting to come through. Now, I want to be careful not to move it. If you've ever watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, there's a scene where he makes a rubbing, 2 scenes where he makes a rubbing of a shield of a former crusader. And that shield then becomes a piece of paper that he uses to help find the treasure at the end of the movie. All right, so there we go. I've got my letters. I've made a rubbing. Now, you can do rubbings all over the place. One of the coolest places is to go to a graveyard. Graveyards have great rubbing material because you can put it right over the name and you can discover all sorts of things. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to take and I'm going to use the end of this, and you can see it really makes a great, and I'm going to have to move it a little bit because this is only a certain size. But that's part of the magic of making a rubbing is that you discover new things that come out. You could there's all sorts of things that make great textures. Sometimes what you run into though is you'll find that what looks like might make a great texture doesn't really make a great texture. Now, we're going to make our name with this just like we did with the photographs with the implied texture that we took of actual texture. What I'm going to want to do is, my name is John, so I need to have a minimum of 8 textures. So I've got some leaves. I've got some other letters here. I've got the canvas stretched on a piece of cloth. This was a wood, but it didn't come out very well. There are 2 different types of wood here. One is a panel of plywood, and then the one is the end of 2x4s right there, and you can see the rings actually showing up. I did the name tag again. I also did a linoleum block print, and then I had a really funky texture that I used for that. And just by the way, I create different textures. All right, so we're going to assemble these into a name. All right, so I've got a bigger sheet of paper here that I'm going to use to glue this onto. I'm going to use some Elmer's glue stick. I'm also going to use the scissors. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out my letter O right now. And I've got a couple of options as I do this. So I could first just start by, I could draw a letter O on the back and draw it out, or I can just freehand cut it. The only problem is that if you don't trust yourself cutting, but that's okay. That's kind of the fun of it is that you create something that's interesting. Now, if you look at that, that's a really cool image right there. I'm now going to take this, I'm going to fold it in half just a little bit, and I'm going to use that now that it's folded, just like I would cut a snowflake. And I have a positive and negative space O, or I have a positive O. So a couple options here that we can do. So I can take, I've got blue here. I don't know if this is a good color to glue it onto. It looks like it's a little too, the colors are too close to each other. Purple and blue are really close to each other on the color wheel, so I don't want to use those. I'm going to take my light green here, and I am going to put my O. I could do that, or I could glue that part onto there and go like that. And now it just depends. It's my choice how I go about finishing this and how I choose to finish this. So I really like the looks of this letter J with this nasty green over the top of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my glue stick and I'm going to glue that onto there. Then I'm going to take that same said glue stick, and I should have a separate piece of paper that I do my gluing on, because as you glue, you're going to go over the edge a little bit, and you don't want that extra glue to get onto other parts of your, you'll also notice that there's a scientific principle there. Notice it's like a leaf that dries. The one side now rose up, and it wants to curl up because of the tension of the glue. It's just like if you paint a piece of paper, paper wants to curl up too. Now, there we go. I've glued that on. I've got my O. Now I've got to do my J. So I'm going to do my J the same way. Run my glue. I'm going to put that. I really like how that looks. That is awesome. And I'm going to put that together right there. There's my J and my O. Now I just have to assemble an H and an N, and I will be done. As you can see now, I have two choices. Am I going to put my N on the yellow, which is a really cool texture? But then I have these leaves that I did that are red, and I have complementary color. Yellow and green are really close to each other on the color wheel and really don't stand out against each other. So I'm going to go with the green on the red background here as a demonstration. I got blue and orange on complementary color. And now I have, so one of the things I'm going to want to do is assemble my name so that it fits on here. And I could arrange it like that if I wanted. It's up to me now to make that decision, how I assemble it and put it together. I could glue two pieces together and keep it so that it is this way. Some people have even made cardboard squares and glued them on. So it's up to you, the choice that you make. The idea is to explore actual texture. And as we explore actual texture, we are going to create rubbings. And we should get something really cool that says John. Hopefully you have fun with this. Search around, find good textures. Some textures aren't as good as